Hello, and welcome to another video. This video, I'm going to be watching a engineering video, or SWTOR. We're starting off here. Usually if you stand here, if you get rid of the deserter debuff, you can actually put your phase walk there. That's usually why I always go there to see if I can, but I still have the debuff, so I wasn't able to. So I'm just putting my phase walk here, and we're immediately going to nuke this guy. This is our opener. Just to explain what happens, this guy gets absolutely nuked, but do know that his health is actually low. He's got 278,000 health. That's not normal. That's not what you don't normally see. You won't see me instantly nuke somebody. You will see me do a lot of damage, but you won't see me instantly nuke somebody like that. At least most of the time, not really solo nuking somebody like that. So just to put a quick TLDR, what I'm doing and how I'm doing it is that an optimal opener most of the time will be to use the ability that I have on C, which is basically a dot that you have to apply to somebody. If you want to use sabotage at all, you have to have the dot on C. I can't remember what its name is. Forgive me for that. And then using Vital Shot, which is corrosive dart, which is my Q ability. I'll follow those in together. One is required, and the other one just increases your damage. And then I would run my explosive charge, which is my number 3. That's your big boom ability. And then you can go into throwing down G, which is the big AoE that you need to slow and to have sabotage actually stun. But I don't always use that. Sometimes I will, sometimes I don't. It really depends on how much movement they may have, their class. Are they able to move around a lot really fast? If they can't, usually I'll throw it. If they can, I'll usually wait just a little bit. Then I'll immediately go into unload. And the reason why you go into unload is so you can get your proc for your sabotage. You can use sabotage without the proc, but it does help to wait for the proc. Sometimes you'll just have to rapid fire it, and sometimes you won't. And I'm surprised that this is actually a darkness tank. This guy is, at least every time I've seen him, he's always been playing DPS, so I was really surprised that he's actually playing tank. He's trying to harass me here, not a big deal. But again, just to run through the burst opener, or basically the loop of rotation that you basically do, would be opening with C. You need that dot on them. It's really important, does a lot of damage. And then you would hit Q, which is dart. This increases your overall damage. It's supposed to charge into unload into sabotage. Obviously, you can throw down your G ability, which is the AoE engineering like slow thing, and then go into sabotage for the stun. And sabotage is number 4. Again, you can forego putting down the AoE and just go directly into 4. It's usually pretty good too. There'll be a lot of times they'll do that actually in this game. And for the most part, if I hydraulics, there's not much I can do against this guy. So he's just like kind of hitting me, but at the same time, you do have 20% range defense. So for the most part, as long as I stay on cover, I'm not really screwing myself. Especially during, was it Blazing Bolts, I believe it's called? Definitely never want to get out of cover while they're doing that on you, because you lose your 20% range defense, and that's very, very helpful, because most of their sustained damage is reliant on landing that. But for the most part, I think this entire game, I'm going to take about like 800k damage. That's mostly just because they're just dead nonstop. Like, they're always dead. Like, a lot of them aren't even using defensives. This is just a uncommon game. Some of them are using defensives and they just die anyway through defensives. Like this person here, you should be able to see that he has 278,000 health. That's not much. So he pretty much always gets nuked every single time he comes in here, which is pretty brutal. I feel bad for him, but, there's got to be a reason he's here. And then if you're going to go into like more of like sustain, the rotation is not too much different than kind of like the flow that you would do on Virulence. Except for you would quite literally never use series of shots. You would use coal. Never really want to use series of shots on Virulence because it's just really not that good. However, it's completely different for engineering. It's actually super amplified and really good. And also, it helps manage your energy. As you can see here, I'm trying to play a little bit objectively because I want to keep them here. This is really beneficial for me as a sniper to fight here. And it'll always be in my favor to try to just throw an AoE at the door because I know they do have stealth, and I also know at the same time they kind of just walk up to it and don't pop defensive, so I'm getting free damage for when they go and do that. They just randomly spam click the door. Obviously, I can't be in two places at once, so eventually I think we do lose the door here, but we're still good on time, so it's not too bad. But going into, as I was saying, for your rotation outside doing your bursts, you will fit in about one snipe to maybe two snipes, which charge bursts. And that's pretty much it. You pretty much always just spam series of shots on cooldown. Always keep your elemental dot, which is the ability that I have on C, on them. You don't always need your AoE down on the floor, but it's nice to have. Where a lot of your energy problems will come from will most likely be using that ability a little bit too much and using thermal grenade a little bit too much. Don't get me wrong, those abilities do decent damage, but if you're ever having heat issues, or not heat issues, but as energy issues, it becomes a big issue. Also, your energy regen ability, the one that I have bound to num 0, you'll have to actually use that a lot, like pretty much on cooldown. So definitely try to keep in mind when you can push your energy and when you can't push your energy. And its cooldown is really not that long, so that really helps. You can take a energy recover implant to help you if you really, really struggle with it, though I wouldn't recommend it, as it's not necessary. You can definitely learn how to play it just fine without it. But if you do take it, it's pretty nice, I guess. You could spam a little bit more. If the enemy team is really mobile, wasting energy all the time, just putting down your AoE, it's 100% not worth it. There's a lot of damage tied to your C and Q, which is your elemental dot that you pretty much always have to have on your main target. You cannot tab dot it, so don't even bother. And then vital shot, which is just a dot that increases your damage to that target. You always want to have that dot on the target when you're doing damage to them. And one thing that you can keep in mind, relatively cheap ability, is Orbital Strike, which is an F1 ability. Throwing that down is pretty much free area denial if you can find a proper use of it. Most Warzones you won't be able to find really good use for it, but on this map it's really nice to just throw it on the doors, because if they try to do anything, if they're going to get hit by it, they're going to have to stand in it. As you see for this game, I'm throwing it down, or this round. I'm throwing it down because I know that if they want to do anything on the door, they're going to have to go through a whole bunch of AoE, and I want to make it just as annoying as possible. That's pretty much what the spec is. Super annoying, super bursty. It's not like constant burst like Rage or SAP, but it's definitely not bad. Its burst window with its auto crit ability lays target, and I think it's called Hot Streak on Republic, is really nasty. So the amplification with the tactical is 50%, and then you have a couple passives that increase the damage of the ability that's going to increase with 50%, and then you also have an auto crit ability that's baked into the class, and they all stack together, creating such a massive hit. I've hit 166k as my highest hit ever, and that's just brutal to think about, because you're not only hitting the explosive charge, you're also hitting sabotage at the same time, and you're also hitting some dots at the same time too. So in theory, you're hitting like a 200k hit splat on a double crit. That is really nasty, and especially since one of the abilities is going to be doing upwards over 100k, and with so much amplification tied to it, it doesn't really matter, I guess, how much damage reduction or whatever you have, because it's still going to hit incredibly hard. If our health pools were, I guess, smaller, I guess it would be the word, or lower, it would be that ability that, how to put it, would just basically delete you from 50 to 0, which is kind of what happens already. You've already seen me do it a couple times to people. However, it's obviously not consistent. It's not very consistent on like heavy armor targets because they do have more natural resistance, but it's still really, really deadly. Trying to think of the last time we've had an ability that could hit this much percentage of health at one time. I don't think we've ever had an ability that would hit this hard or this much percentage of your health. I think like maybe the exception of it, maybe 1.0 and 2.0, we did have some things that hit really hard. I remember hitting a 30,000 for Scream with Bloodthirst and a General. This is before Generals were disabled for PvP. On Carnage, again, for Scream, beautiful. Then they go into 3.0, and we get Devastating. Devastating Blast. I really hate that ability. It's really bad. I don't think I'll ever like it. I think for Scream, not only do sound-wise and sound-wise, just is better. Really miss that ability for Scream. Something so simple, but so good. But generally, so like my thought process, I'm sure it's like super easy for most people to figure out, but the way you want to lay down your AoEs, if I ever do lay down my AoEs, it's in areas that people have to travel. So I'm not necessarily just trying to hit one person in my AoE, I'm trying to hit multiple people or be area denying rather than just using it as a DPS rotational ability. You'll get far more use out of it and you'll get far more damage out of it if you do it that way rather than trying to just kill a person. It's very easy for most classes nowadays to just get out of it. And then here they're kind of just stacking up. So this is just free damage. It's like the laziest AoE ever. I can throw down my F1, I can throw down my regular AoE, and then use Pseudo Gunfire all at the same time. However, I'm trying to make sure that I use all of my burst damage before I even bother with that, but also being mindful of my heat. And you see, I just hit another 140k plus another 44k on top of that on that guy. It's almost 200k damage right there. And just one global. It's absolutely nasty. And sorcerers will be your best bet. If they're not playing Madness, and if they are playing Madness and they're not taking the damage reduction talent, they are the best targets for you to hit for your burst. So that's one thing to think about. And we're pretty much coming up to the end here because we went off of this, but I don't see this games very often anymore. This is like a 77 kill game. I ended up getting Invincible at the very end. I'm using Stimulated and 5% damage increase, so I'm not even using Second Wind here. And I really take no damage because they're just constantly dead. 77 kills, man. Don't see those every day. It's a very peaceful, very chill game.